Welcome back to the Nerd Corner. Matthew and I just saw the Babadook. What did you think of it?
The Babadook. It's a really, really great British film. What?
What? It's not British?
It's not British?
Come on!
What? This is rubbish!
Matthew!
This is rubbish!
Matthew, sit down. I can't do this by myself.
I would like to introduce
Once again, guys, thanks for watching the Nerd Corner. I'm Josh.
And I'm Matt, and we watched the Australian film The Babadook. So, Josh, what did you think of The Babadook?
Well, I had no idea who Jennifer Kent was until I watched this movie, and I'll never forget her name because she made a fantastic horror film. It stayed away from these cliches that we always see in horror films, and it did one thing that a lot of movies can't do, and that is terrify me.
Right. It's like, okay, so in this Australian film, me and Josh heard about it from The Nerdist. Matt Myra said it was like one of his favorite horror films.
And we're like, let's check it out, because anything Matt Myra says is golden.
Right, and so like I was getting these like good, like looking at these good critic reviews, and they were like, oh, it's so good, blah blah.
And you actually watched the trailer and then told me about it, and you're like, dude, we have to watch this movie.
Right, I watched the trailer on IMDb, and I was like, we have to watch this. This looks awesome. So, and I wasn't disappointed in it. Jennifer Kent, her directorial debut. She wrote the script. She directed it. She did a fantastic job. We had great actors in it. Ella Davis.
And even Noah Wiseman, who played Sam in the movie, who is Ella Davis' son, he did a fantastic job being a little craphead.
Right, so if you guys don't know what The Babadook is, if this isn't a movie that's on your radar, which it's not, a lot of people don't know about this yet.
But it should.
Yes, it should be on your radar. Go check out this movie. Fantastic horror film. I'm not a huge horror fan, as you well know. We hated the horror offerings like Ouija and Annabelle recently. But the director of The Exorcist said this was the scariest movie in a while.
Yeah, and when he says that, it's legit. Like
right, it doesn't do a lot of the horror movie cliches like jump scares and the whole like demonology and the priest and voodoo mama juju.
It's very simplistic. Most of the movie takes place in a single house that's deteriorating. It's old. I mean, when you think about Australia, you think of white sandy beaches and palm trees and basically Los Angeles. You think about that, but everything is almost gray. It's very gray, it's very subliminal, and so let's talk about the plot a little more. There is a book called Mr. Babadook that the mom reads to her son not every night, not this particular book, but the kid needs a book to read, and bedtime stories like most kids do.
Right.
Well, in this particular book, it's a pop-up book starring Mr. Babadook. It's a children's story, or so you think. And while she's reading it, she discovers that it's not your normal children's book, and Sam, the kid, instantly gets scared and freaks out and is terrified by this character, the Babadook.
Right, he's so petrified. He says, the Babadook's coming to get me, blah blah, like little kids are, like how little kids are. And the mom is so anxious. She's so annoyed by his because he really likes monsters. He's really into the whole monster thing. He's really into the supernatural.
But he's terrified of them, and he's obsessed. He's obsessed.
Right, and she is so like upset because she lost her husband in a car accident. You find out he was driving her to the hospital to have Sam, and so she's a single mother working a job. It's an okay job.
There's a hint of resentment. In her tone with Sam and how she acts around him.
She's kind of like
that's a driving force.
Well, she's like struggling as a single mother, and it's a single mother, single parent.
It's not easy.
It's not easy at all. And the kid's terrified. He's ostracized by the other kids in the community and his own cousin and aunt.
It leads to problems in school and with the only family. Like her sister's the only family she has, or it makes it out to be. And she has no real friends, and so when all these problems come from Sam, it just adds more and more stress to her life. And one of the things in the book that it says is, the more you deny me, the stronger I get. And now, talking about the movie, we can say that the Babadook is real. It's this supernatural being that resides in this book. The other side of that coin is that this is a manifestation of her own demons, her own inner perils that are going on, and troubles and turmoils and all the bad things that are inside of her. And it says, the more you deny me, the stronger I get. And you can't destroy the Babadook as long as it's in a word or a book.
Right, and so that's the problem though, is because like when it starts going really south is when she hears a knock on her door. Like this happened in the book too. She heard a knock on her door, and
she goes, duh.
So she goes, huh, and she opens the door and there's no one there, and then she walks away and goes, duh, and she's like, oh my God, someone. So she opens the door, no one's there, and she looks down, and the book that she destroyed the Mystery Babadook book, she threw it away, and it's at the door. No one's there but the book. And so she says, "Oh my God!" So she rips it up, and she basically
burns it too.
She burns it, and what happens is it comes back, and it's different. The ending is different. It shows it says of course, the more you deny me, the stronger you get. But it also says, when I'm with you, you will start to change. When I'm around, you'll start to change. And so it's a pop-up book, and she opens it up, and it shows her strength. She snaps her dog's neck in the book. She snaps her kid's neck in the book, and she slits her own throat, right? And so she reports it to the police. She said, someone's stalking me. So she's still denying the existence of this Babadook, even though she's having trouble sleeping. Yeah. And she hears Babadook
over the phone, which was one of the scariest parts in the movie.
And it was genuinely terrifying when when she's at home and she hears the Babadook. But then, when you see it, it's even more terrifying. It's not a jump scare. You see him coming pretty much. But she can't. She's like, oh God, she's so scared, but she's still denying it every single twist and turn. And Ella Davis does a fantastic job as the mom, and she does a good job showing the sleep depravity, how she can't.
She kind of loses it.
Yeah, she gets a little cabin fever in there and stuff like that. And it's a fantastic movie because it scares you and very mythical. In quality, the book, and it's like if you've ever been scared when you were a kid, something that goes bump in the night, or the boogeyman,
something under your bed, or
whatever. This kind of it kind of reaches out and is like, well, here it's real. The Babadook is real. Now, like you said, you can either do it two ways. You can either say the Babadook's real, or it's just her inner demons coming out. So I'd like to think the Babadook's real.
So would I. I mean, it's a scary thought to think that this Babadook is roaming around. And one thing I like is that all the devices in there work. There's not a time where anything doesn't work. The acting's fantastic. So if you haven't watched the Babadook, I would strongly recommend it. And for those who have, stay tuned because we're going to get into spoilers and discuss some of the inner workings behind the Babadook.
If you haven't seen it, go out, see it, check it out. It's a fantastic movie, fantastic foreign film. It's it's one of my favorite horror movies now. It's a great film, and we're gonna go ahead and get into spoilers.
So let's go ahead and talk about the basement. So the basement is where Sam goes down to play. It's where the mom keeps the belongings of her dead husband, and it's almost a sanctuary for her. Not a sanctuary. It's almost like a graveyard is a better way to put it, because she doesn't want Sam playing down there or touching anything. She just wants to forget about everything down there.
The basement's like a lockbox. She locks the door. She doesn't let Sam go in there. And all of the dead father stuff is in there. And she's just like, it's basically it's physically and metaphorically like a lockbox for her suppressed memories of her husband, which she doesn't want to relive.
And at the end of the movie, I find it interesting that that's where she keeps the Babadook. She actually ends up keeping it alive and feeding it worms.
Right. So the Babadook possesses her, right? Mm-hmm. And so when he possesses her, she starts to change. She starts to flip out on Sam more. She says, why don't you go eat shit? And she flips out and she ends up killing the dog. And she tries to kill Sam, but Sam was smart. In the beginning of the movie, he had devised weapons to stop the Babadook.
He had a catapult, he had a crossbow.
He had a trap set for the Babadook, and he honestly traps the Babadook, and he says, "Mom, fight it," and she does. She spits up this goop, and he says, "You can't kill the Babadook, right?" Mm-hmm. So he goes flying, and she's trying to stop him and stuff.
And they end up confronting it.
The Babadook finally comes, and she says, "Leave him alone, blah blah, stop it." And so finally, she kind of overcomes it and it runs away into the basement. And when it gets in the basement, she can't kill it. She can't do anything with it. She comes back and she's like you said, feeding it worms and stuff. And he's like, "Can I see it?" And she says, "Not, yet." You never get a good look at the Babadook, and that's something that's, like I said, mythical in quality. It's your own imagination throughout the entire movie. Fantastic use of scares, fantastic use of just creepy imagery and sounds, and not banking on these jump scares. And I mean, to me, like I said, any horror movie that can make me scared, and any horror movie that I like, is a win in my book, because I don't like many horror movies, but definitely worth checking out. So what are your final thoughts on...
When you think about low budget, indie film, foreign, those three words in your mind think crap. Like, I mean, a lot of those movies aren't very good, but this movie, it was special. It has a unique place. I'm probably going to go out and buy this movie. The acting, phenomenal. The script, it goes to show that when you, like Jennifer Kent did, when you write a solid script, you can do wonders with a $5 million budget. It all goes back to the core on what the story is and how it relates to the audience. That's one thing about this movie, is you connect to it on a certain level and you actually get invested in these characters. It's very simplistic. Most of the movie takes place in the house with just two main characters, but it works. That's the crazy thing about it. It works, and it works very well. So I think that we need to see more movies like this. I would push for this movie to be in theaters more across the country, because I would love to have seen this in the theater. And I think that a lot of people are going to miss out because they don't hear about this movie.
Right. So if like I said, if this isn't on your radar, it needs to be. You need to go out. Amazon Instant Video has it. Like a bunch of streaming services have it.
You can get a hold. It's easily accessible.
It's easily
online,
accessible.
Yeah.
It's hard to go see in theaters unless you live in Texas, but it's easily accessible. Definitely check this movie out. It's one of the best horror movies I've seen in recent memory. Like, the only other horror movie that lights a candle is The Conjuring, and even then I think this is probably a better horror movie than The Conjuring. Definitely go check it out. Great Australian film. Thank you guys for watching our Babadook review. What did you guys think of the Babadook? Go ahead and comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
And stay tuned for more Nerd Corner videos.